Good evening and welcome to Connecticut Department of Transportation's public information meeting for installation of Centerline rumble strips. This project will install Centerline rumble strips on eligible roadways throughout Connecticut. They'll be resurfaced for pavement preservation in 2024. Tonight, we'll be presenting specifically on the need for Centerline rumble strips in Roxbury on Route 67, Southbury Road, as well as highlighting the safety benefits that come with its installation. My name is Rob Smith, and I'm the project engineer at the Connecticut Department of Transportation for this project. I want to thank everyone for taking the time to join us. We hope our presentation will be informative, and we hope to answer your questions and concerns during tonight's question and answer session. By the end of tonight's meeting, we hope you'll be able to have a better understanding of the importance and the benefit of installing Centerline rumble strips. If you're viewing this presentation on Zoom, you have the option to view captions or subtitles for this presentation. To turn on this feature, select the CC button at the bottom right corner of your screen to turn on captioning. Then choose the language by selecting the settings wheel next to the CC button. Select captions, subtitles, and select for the desired language. Before we start the presentation and introduce the project team, I'd like to go over a few housekeeping items and explain the format for tonight's meeting. Our presentation will last approximately 20 minutes, and once it's completed, we'll host a live question and answer session. You have 3 ways of communicating with us during the live Q&A. The first method is to ask your question directly into the Zoom event. You can ask a question by clicking on the Q&A icon at the bottom of the meeting page and typing your question into the pop-up window. You can also ask a question by sending an email to the project email address, which is DOT2024 CLRS-Roxbury@ct.gov. You can also leave a voicemail at 860-594-2020, and we'll be checking that during the meeting. The comment period will be open through September 8th, 2023. So you can send an email or leave a voicemail up until that date. We also have a project webpage, which contains the same information that I've previously explained on how to provide comments or ask questions. The project webpage is portal.ct.gov/DOT2024 CLRS-Roxbury. A recording of tonight's presentation, including the live Q&A event, will be stored also online, and that will be stored at portal.ct.gov/CTDOT VPIM archive, also being shown on the screen now. Lastly, we'd greatly appreciate it if you can fill out the very brief feedback survey that is on the project's webpage. Virtual public information meetings are a new development for the department, and the survey will help the department improve these public meetings going forward. Again, the project webpage is portal.ct.gov/DOT2024 CLRS-Roxbury. There is also a civil rights flyer that's available. The website for that is at portal.ct.gov/DOT/business/Office of Equity/Title 6 page. Finally, I'd like to reinforce that no person shall, on the basis of race, color, or national origin, be excluded from participation or subject to discrimination in the development of this project. I'd like to now introduce those from the department who are participating in this meeting. Natasha Fatu is State Safety Engineer for the state of Connecticut and Principal Engineer of CTDOT's Traffic Safety and Operations Unit. Balaj Zoke is the Supervising Engineer of CTDOT's Traffic Safety Unit and the Project Manager for this project. Once again, I'm Rob Smith, an engineer in the Safety Engineering Unit, the lead engineer for this project, and the primary presenter for tonight's meeting. I'll also be answering questions that you may have during the live Q&A session. Jake Chamberlain is also an engineer with the Safety Engineering Unit and will be monitoring the project email address and call in voicemail for any questions or comments during the live Q&A. So for the agenda, we'll go through the project description and purpose of this project, as well as objectives that we hope to achieve. Then we will give a thorough description of what centerline rumble strips are and why centerline rumble strips are the best countermeasure for this roadway segment. Next, I'll discuss the installation process for centerline rumble strips, or CLRS, as you're seeing. And lastly, we'll go over the cost and timeline for this project before we wrap everything up in the live Q&A discussion. So the Connecticut Department of Transportation will resurface Route 67 from Route 317 Church Street in Roxbury to Route 6 in Southbury, which is Main Street North. That's for pavement preservation, and that will be occurring in 2024. The full 6.6 mile length of this road segment was identified as being a candidate for the installation of centerline rumble strips, as highlighted in the aerial image. And that's for a total of 4.3 miles in Roxbury. I'll go over what qualifies this section of Route 67 as eligible later in the presentation. Centerline rumble strips are discontinued at intersections with public streets, such as Transylvania Road, because vehicles use the intersectional area when they're turning into and out of these side roads. So what are centerline rumble strips? Centerline rumble strips are grooves within the double yellow centerline that produce noise and vibration inside the vehicle when the tires come into contact with them. The noise and vibration alerts the drivers that they've departed from their lane and gives the driver an opportunity to recover. Centerline rumble strips are different than the grooves along the edges of Connecticut's interstate highways. The grooves for centerline rumble strips on secondary roads are not as deep, and they therefore produce less noise outside the vehicle. But why would we use centerline rumble strips? The audible and vibratory warning greatly improves the chances that a driver will quickly and safely return to their lane. Centerline rumble strips also have the additional benefit of helping drivers navigate during poor weather conditions such as fog, snow, rain, and when pavement markings are obscured. The Federal Highway Administration has identified centerline rumble strips as a proven safety countermeasure to address head-on and sideswipe opposite direction crashes. As mentioned in the last slide, centerline rumble strips are an example of a proven safety countermeasure, according to the Federal Highway Administration, along with the other countermeasures shown on this slide. Additional information can be found here by Googling proven safety countermeasures and clicking on the first link. The department's Safety Engineering Unit also has an informational website which provides additional information specific to Connecticut. In 2022, there were 44 fatalities and 2,730 injuries from head-on and opposite direction sideswipe crashes on Connecticut roadways, the non-freeways. Centerline rumble strips help reduce these types of crashes, which could be attributed to distracted or fatigued driving. Over 25% of people injured in crashes associated with vehicles crossing the center line were under the age of 25. It's also worth noting that a review of sites with centerline rumble strips showed a 57% decrease in fatal and severe injury crashes after CLRS installation. So looking at motor vehicle crashes specifically on the segment of Route 67 in Roxbury, from 2020 to 2022, there were 6 crashes that involved drivers encroaching over the center line. One of these crashes resulted in a fatality. 2 of these crashes resulted in injury. And this comes from our publicly available data that UConn puts together in the Connecticut Crash Repository. That's available at ctcrash.uconn.edu. The point of the centerline rumble strips is to reduce the possibility of these types of severe crashes. It's also important to note that near misses are not recorded, so they may be happening, but there is no information about them. Centerline rumble strips are highly effective, low-cost proactive treatment intended to reduce lane departure crashes and will aid in continuing to keep these crashes from happening. Based on national data, fatal and injury head-on and sideswipe crashes in rural areas reduced by an average of 44% with centerline rumble strips. Additionally, per the infograph at the bottom of the slide, centerline rumble strips can reduce head-on crashes by as much as 50%, run off the road crashes by 46%, fatal crashes by 51%, and serious injury crashes by 41%. There are approximately 43 states across the country that use centerline rumble strips, including all the states in the Northeast US. Connecticut started installing centerline rumble strips in 2024 and shoulder line rumble strips on limited access highways since 1994. CT has installed over 385 miles of centerline rumble strips on state roads and over 90 miles on local roads, with more being proposed each year. Lastly, there's a link to a video titled Rumble Strips, The Sweet Sound of Safety, which is a short YouTube video uploaded by the Federal Highway Administration and will be available once the presentation is posted online. It can also be found on YouTube by typing in the underlined keywords. As you can see on this map, the majority of towns in Connecticut have had centerline rumble strips installed. Any town shown in green already has centerline rumble strip, whether it's on a town or state-owned roadway. The towns in blue are programmed to have them installed, and the towns shown in white do not currently have centerline rumble strips, so that will likely change in the near future as additional roads are repaved. The department goes through a screening process to determine centerline rumble strips eligibility for each road, including taking a look at the traffic volume to make sure that the average daily traffic on the road is at least 2,000 vehicles per day, ensuring that the pavement is in good condition and less than 3 years old. The roadway is to have a minimum of 14 feet of width from the center line to the edge of pavement. This makes sure there's plenty of room for drivers to maneuver without going over centerline rumble strips. The roadway must have a posted speed limit of 35 miles an hour or greater. And lastly, there should be low residential density. If there are some homes along a segment, we try to ensure that the majority are at least 100 feet from the edge of the road. The average cost of installing centerline rumble strips is a little more than 50 cents per linear foot. This means that the total cost of centerline rumble strips is approximately $15,000 for the 4.3 mile long segment in Roxbury. The cost will be covered by 100% state funds, so there is no cost to the town, with construction anticipated to take place during next year's construction season. These are just a couple of pictures taken from construction, showing part of the milling and grooving process. Construction vehicles work and travel at 2 to 3 miles per hour to install the centerline rumble strips. The construction is done during non-rush hours, and the center lines are painted a few days later. So with that, I want to thank you for your time to listen to our presentation. And now it's time to hear from you in the live question and answer session. Remember, you can use the Zoom Q&A to send us live questions. You can also email us any questions or comments via the project email address, or leave a voicemail on the call-in phone line, or type your question directly into the Zoom. We also want to encourage that you take our very brief feedback survey to help us improve how we deliver these virtual public information meetings. So with all that being said, I'm going to ask Balazs if you could read off some of the questions that we have from the Q&A and also that we're getting on from the email voicemail lines. So Balazs, what kind of questions are we getting?
Hello, good evening, everybody. Again, my name is Melania Soka with Connecticut DOT, Supervising Engineer in the Safety Engineering Unit. We do have a couple of questions. I want to first of all thank you, Rob, for that great presentation, very informative. We do have a couple of questions in, as well as a couple of emails. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with the first question of the night. The question is, or well, first it's a statement, then it turns into a question. I appreciate the potential for rumble strips to enhance safety on Route 67, but I think this solution will prove inadequate. Have you considered reducing passing lanes and or considered speed bumps at specific portions of the road?
All right, thank you for that question. So we do have kind of a variety of treatments that we use for places that we identify as that have had a history of crash locations. So one of the other things that we look at is high friction surface treatment. Speed bumps, we don't normally look at. That's not a treatment that we have normally considered. Or what was the other suggestion, Balazs?
So yeah, this is
Reducing the passing zone.
yes. Yes.
So that's
Or speed
something
bumps,
we
yeah.
can definitely take that comment too, and consider that. I know I think there's at least one passing zone there. So, so thank you for your question, and definitely, we'll look into that.
All right, thank you for that response, and thank you for the question. Again, just want to remind everybody real quickly that there's a few ways to ask questions, right? For those in chat, you can post your questions in the Zoom live event chat where you have the option to ask a question anonymously or with your name. You can also contact us by email at dot2024 clrs-roxbury@ct.gov. You can also leave us a voicemail at 860-594-2020 if you would prefer. And all of the project webpage information is shown to you. So with that, let's go on to the next question. And I guess this relates to the first question, so I'm going to jump around a little bit. But the question is, are you planning to put these in passing zones? And I suppose this relates to the current first question.
Yes, so we didn't previously put them in passing zones, but that is no longer the recommendation from FHWA. So currently going forward, we are putting them in passing zones. So if you've seen them in the past and they haven't been there, in the future, they will be going in. So yes, you're correct, Balazs. That does go back to our earlier comment, and reconsidering the passing zones there, that may be something that we also need to look into.
All right, thank you for that, Rob. Again, just want to remind everyone that we do have a survey at the end of this. Obviously, when we get through all the questions, if you could, at the end of tonight's presentation and Q&A session, please participate in the brief survey. That would be very, very much appreciated. On to the next question, or well, again, statement. My main concern is noise. We already have high traffic through the center of Roxbury where the speed is relatively low. Many houses are right on the road as many are coming into and out of the center. The rumble strips on Weller's Bridge in Roxbury are extremely noisy.
Yeah, and I am glad someone asked about the Weller's Bridge, because we discussed that with the town, and then we took a field visit out there, and it does look like, and I from my understanding, I saw them being patched up, and it looks like I think maybe the town will be patching up most of them there. That road for sure, I don't think it would meet at least two of our criteria now, that we have, speed limit, I believe, and then also the road width. I think Weller's Bridge is pretty narrow in some of the spots where there's CLRS, and that just doesn't give the driver a lot of room if they stray at all outside of their lane, or if there's something on the side of the road, then they're going to be hitting the rumble strip. So I totally understand that they produce noise. It's a valid concern. On the roads that we do install them that do meet the criteria, when someone runs over the rumble strip, it means that they have crossed over the center line, and potentially that gets them back into the lane, and it potentially prevents a crash from occurring. So if there's a location where there are a lot of vehicles crossing the center line, that's something that we may need to look into more, whether it's enforcement or something else, or distracted drivers, that we may need to address, because then that's a serious concern, and certainly something that's, as I discussed the crash history, something that's happened on this stretch of road before. So we're just hoping that the Centerline rumble strips are just one tool, and that there will be other things as well, to make sure that people are staying in their lane, and hopefully reducing the number of times that someone is even crossing over the center lane. But thank you for bringing up both the rumble strips that were on Weller's Bridge, and the noise that they can produce outside the vehicle.
Right. And just to kind of reinforce a fact, right? So that was a previous specification that was used on that road, which was louder. In addition to the lane widths being much narrower, so people were more likely to go over the rumble strips accidentally. Right here, the roadway is a little bit wider, so there is more room to maneuver without accidentally going over them, and the spec is also a little bit narrower, so that if there is noise from a vehicle going over it, then it would be, certainly much quieter than it was previously on Weller's Bridge. But so thank you for that. We do have a follow-up from a previous resident, and the question/statement is, as a further note, it seems like Centerline rumble strips are directed at non-passing portions of the road. I live at a section of Route 67 where passing is permitted. There is a school bus stop along this portion of the road. Wouldn't reducing passing on the long stretch of 67 where passing is permitted along with rumble strips be more appropriate? So that's kind of the first part is reducing the passing zone or looking at it. And then part two is drivers are commonly driving at upwards of 70 miles per hour on this stretch.
Yeah, so I guess, we'd have two comments there. One, I'm glad that we're actually having this discussion because it seems like the passing zones are a real concern there. Those are usually handled by the Office of State Traffic Administration at Connecticut DOT. So that's definitely a conversation that we can have with them, and certainly look at some crash history there. In terms of people speeding, 70 miles an hour, that is very fast. And some of it, as engineers, we try to solve a lot of problems with infrastructure, but some issues do require some enforcement as well. Just things kind of go hand in hand with, driver behavior and driver expectations. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah,
that's a great comment.
Yeah, so the passing zones do get reviewed, like Rob mentioned, by OSTA, which is the Office of the State Traffic Administration. So that was reviewed as part of this. And yeah, really, we can put in a lot of infrastructure, like he said, but it's at the end of the day, we can't really enforce any kind of speed limits, right? That's a little bit out of our control. So thank you for that question and that great answer. Another question is, are Centerline rumble strip elements reflective?
No. So we are not adding any sort of reflectors or markers into the Centerline rumble strips. They just don't work well with the plowing in the wintertime. Sometimes you see those in Texas and California. So we are moving to more reflective pavement markings everywhere with our epoxy pavement markings, and we add reflective glass beads. So when it gets repaved, there will be more reflective and fresh epoxy pavement markings put down. So hopefully that will make it. I know it's not a well illuminated road, so hopefully that will make those lines more visible.
Okay. Thank you for that. Our next question is, who will pay for the resurfacing to be done after the Centerline rumble strip installation, and how much will it cost?
The resurfacing will actually be done before the Centerline rumble strip installation. The cost for that project, we're on the safety side, so we're mostly concerned with the Centerline rumble strips. I'm not sure of the overall cost of the pavement preservation. Just to give a background, the state of Connecticut has a vendor in place paving program where every road is on a cycle to get resurfaced. Every few decades, maybe it depends on traffic. And then also as part of that, they look at roads that have been paved within maybe recent years for pavement preservation, such as chip seal or other things, to make that pavement last even longer. So that's typically handled by our pavement people, and if anyone's looking for kind of more information on that, you can certainly send us an email, and I can ask that question of them.
Okay, thank you. We have another question here. The areas in town that are below 30 miles per hour will not have the rumble strip. Is this correct?
That's correct. The extent, let me go back to the map, and I should maybe leave that up for a little bit. The extents of the rumble strips are only going from the Southbury Woodbury town line to Route 317 Church Street. They are not, and then they will end before that intersection. Is because, like I said, we don't like to have centerline rumble strips going right up into an intersection. So they won't be going any further than that or any further on Route 67.
Okay, thank you. Next question is this a proposed project that we have the right to object to, or is this an informal meeting about something we will have no choice about?
Sure. So this is an informational meeting, and we definitely we have these meetings to gather your comments, and we do take those in consideration. We will be, talking about this project, taking in all the input after after this meeting is done. We save all your responses. The pavement preservation project, that's separate, and that will be happening. That's just part of regular resurfacing and protecting the pavement. The centerline rumble strips, that's our portion of the project, and that's what we'll be discussing after this meeting.
Okay, thank you. We have another question here. There are residences very close to Route 67 near or in the historic district. Has this been considered?
Yes, so we do look at the density of the houses, because obviously if there's a lot of residences close to the road, then within 100 feet, then the chances of any one of those residences hearing someone go over the rumble strips is high. So we do look at that density. I don't know exactly where the historic part is, although I would guess it looks like it's near the intersection of 67 and Church Road. We are not going north of that. So if that helps to answer that question. And like I said, I'll just leave up this slide for a little bit longer, and then I will switch back to the one where you can that gives the information about providing responses. Thank you for that question.
Thank you. Next question, we have the minimum requirement for the road width is 14 feet. This road does not have a continuous width that would comply. Additionally, what are the stats for the rumble strips for drivers that are going 70 miles per hour in our 40-mile-per-hour speed limit? I am the ZEO for the town, and your setbacks from the property line is only 50 feet.
Thanks for that question. So we use the state roadway inventory data for the road widths, and then we also do a we check using aerial imagery. Like I said, we also took a field visit out there to check the road widths. I can certainly take another look at that and see how wide they are, and certainly if there's some data that you want to send me, that would be fine too. But yes, so thank you for that comment.
Yep. Again, there are a few things that do get considered, part of it being the roadway width, the speed limit, the number of vehicles on the road, and a few other things, residential density, that we look at before we decide to go this route. And also, getting some of this feedback from all of you is actually very helpful for us to make the final determination. Obviously, again, as Rob mentioned, this is just a meeting to go over the information and get public feedback. So, that's why we're all here tonight. So thank you for all of these questions. The next question is, the $15,000 amount is only for the portion that passes through Roxbury. I ask because Route 67 passes through Woodbury and Southbury in addition to Roxbury.
Yes, that's correct. The 15,000 would only be for the portion that goes through Roxbury. So it would be about another 50% more, it looks like, because it's 4 miles through Roxbury and 6.5 for the full length. So now we're talking about another somewhere in the 20,000s for the total. When we look at other safety treatments that we try to implement systemic safety treatments, the centerline rumble strips are actually one of the lowest cost ones, and they can be used and a lot more areas than, for example, our high friction surface treatment. So whenever all of the projects that our safety group works on, they're supposed to be systemic projects. We're supposed to be looking statewide to implement treatments, and they both are trying to address a history of crashes, but also preventing future crashes at the same time. So we do try to keep that in mind, that there is actually a crash history on this portion of Route 67, but there are some roads that we add treatments to that we just recognize that there could be crashes in the future. Maybe they haven't had crashes in the past due to chance, or just because they have a low volume, fewer traffic. I just wanted to add that because I haven't made that note yet. So thank you for your question.
All right, thank you, Rob. We have quite a few more questions to go through, so we'll keep moving with them. Another one is, I agree with the first question / statement that the centerline rumble strips are likely not going to help and will only add additional sound pollution to the existing noise from the busy road. Slowing the speed of traffic without increasing the sound pollution would be a more effective solution to the problems with the hazard of the road I live on.
Thank you for that comment. And we appreciate that. The only thing I'll add is I will just also reiterate the importance of other elements, including enforcement, in terms of reducing speed. And the engineering side, as me and Balaj have discussed, we look at infrastructure solutions, but also if there is excessive speeding, that's also has to be kind of part of the solution as well.
Right, and that is certainly something that if it's a known issue and there is no enforcement out there, by all means, feel free to reach out to the local police or whoever may be, monitoring this section of roadway, especially if the cars are in fact going, 70 in a 40-mile-per-hour section. It should be pretty easy to catch them if they're going that fast, unfortunately. Okay, so next question is, what other criteria does a road have to meet to ultimately be chosen for CLRS? The crashes that we know of were related to outside factors such as DUIs. New cars also have safety technology to self-monitor lane drifting.
Sure. Let me pull up the criteria again. So here's the criteria that we use. Deals with the amount of traffic, the pavement condition. This is getting resurfaced, so the pavement condition will be good. Width of the roadway, posted speed limit of 35 miles an hour or greater, and then the residential density. Excuse me.
Okay.
So 1 second, I'll just continue to answer that question.
Okay.
So the fatal crash that occurred, the driver was impaired, but I'll have a couple notes about that. One, centerline rumble strips are supposed to also address impaired drivers. Two, the driver was also distracted according to the police crash report, and they drifted across the center lane. So regardless of what's going on, the person is unfamiliar with the road, they're impaired, they're distracted. The centerline rumble strips are supposed to reduce the potential for crashes for that. And the new technology is fantastic, and we're seeing it in more and more cars. And the great thing about those is as they are introduced in cars, we expect there to actually be less people driving on the centerline rumble strips. So for the people who have concerns about noise, as more of the technology, lane departure technology gets rolled out, then the centerline rumble strips, you'll hear fewer and fewer people crossing them. And maybe one day we will have no need for them, but unfortunately we're not there yet. So thank you for that comment.
Yep, thank you, Rob. We got another one here. So the 4.3 miles over which the centerline rumble strips are being considered contains varied terrain. For example, the sections of road closest to Route 317 are more heavily populated, including a busy gas station. Is there consideration for reducing speed limits as an alternative safety measure in this section of Route 67? Again, so some of these questions, as I'm kind of going through them and seeing the ones that are coming in, I think we've kind of touched on before. So they're kind of partial repeats, at least for the speed limit portion of it. So again, the speed limits are set by the Office of State Traffic Administration, and as part of this project, they're not currently being changed, right? We're primarily talking about the CLRS for tonight. However, that is something that we can, take back with us and take into consideration. And then Rob, if you wanted to just touch on real quickly the, different population areas of Route 67.
Sure. We did look at, let me see if I pull this up. We did look at the residences that were within 100 feet of the road. There are, looks like about 60 something residential units, and what I think is a hotel, and I'm sure someone will correct me if I'm wrong on that, that are along the section outside the 100-foot limit. And it looks like there's about 15 residential units that are within about 100 feet. And we would consider that pretty low density and would expect that in those individual 15 residences that they won't be hearing, certainly anything close to continuous, people going over the rumble strip, and we expect it should be rare, especially after they're installed and people recognize that they need to be staying in their lane. And yeah, to follow up on Balazs's also his point about the speed limits, we do know that lowering speed limits alone, it needs to go hand in hand with enforcement, because people will drive as they see appropriate on the road, and as we've seen in recent years, maybe much too fast in some places. So definitely something that we're going to need a lot of different solutions to.
Okay, thank you, Rob. And this next question / comment kind of just goes hand in hand with what we talked about. So I'll read it and we'll just go quickly over it. But so the question / statement is: you said criteria includes concerns for home frontage. We have non-conforming homes that sit within 25 feet of the roadway. You said, I'm not quite sure what that says, so I'll try and manage it as best I can. You say for speed management, yet only 6 of the crashes over 2 years within the over 2,000 vehicles daily cross the yellow lines. Also, it's impossible for the over 80 trucks that pass here daily will always extend their front wheels on the lines of the turns. I strongly object, and also object to your use of present inclusive language before you have heard from residents.
Okay, thank you for that comment. I think we talked a little bit about the residences that are on the road. Just make sure I answer anything else that's on there. 6 crashes is we install Centerline rumble strips at places to prevent crashes, but also places that have a crash history, like I said, but also places that have potential for future crashes. Of those 6 that were related to Centerline rumble strips, there were actually many more crashes, obviously, that happened on Route 67. And those crashes involved a fatality and some serious injuries. So these are the kinds of things that we're looking to prevent. And yeah, so that would be my only further comment on that. And I think we sort of kind of answered a lot of the rest of that, but we do appreciate the comment, and we're recording, everything that people are saying, and we'll be taking into consideration.
Yeah, and I know, 6 crashes over 2 years that fall within this, that can possibly be fixed by Centerline rumble strips doesn't sound like a lot, but really our goal is to try and save as many lives as possible, right? I know it doesn't seem like a huge thing to install this as a way to save lives, but every little bit that we can do on our end is something that we will try and do, just in order to mitigate whatever crashes can happen or keep them from happening in the first place. Right, it's a proactive countermeasure. It's relatively cheap, all things considered, and it is a proven safety countermeasure. So I know most of the concern is going to be noise related, and we'll kind of go over that a little bit more later. But again, if the noise is happening, that is because vehicles are going over the rumble strips, which they really should not be. So if anything, that means it's working. But yep, thank you for all the questions and the comments. We do have another one. What is the design for the CLRS? More specifically, will it be a continuous line, or will there be space between a strip?
Sure. So we're using a new specification for shallow, spaced out Centerline rumble strips. They look like the slide that I'm showing you right now. So no, they are not continuous. If that answers, I think that answers that question. Thank you.
Yeah, and just in addition to that, since it is a newer spec, right, it's different from some of the ones that you may have seen on other roadways, because it is relatively new, only a couple of years old. And they've actually started being called mumble strips rather than rumble strips, because it is, you know, like we said, significantly quieter than the older version of these. Another one, you mentioned being cognizant of homes that are close to the road. Your presentation stated that houses should be 100 feet from the road. The homes near the center of town are right along the road. Can you clarify the decision criteria on this? Thank you.
Sure. And, you know, like I said, it's more about density and the chances of any one house, you know, hearing a lot of people going over the centerline rumble strips. So it isn't just a completely restrictive criteria, as Balazs was saying. And you know, obviously you guys have, you know, we've gotten some comments about, you know, historic districts and houses, and, you know, we will take that into consideration, take those comments in consideration when we discuss after this meeting tonight. So thank you.
Yep, we definitely will. So again, thank you for all these comments. We have another one. I live on Wellersbridge Road where rumble strips were installed. It has massively degraded our quality of life as the constant traffic breaches the center line. It has been particularly awful on curves. I can't express strongly enough just how badly it affects the area, as it happens at all times of the day and night. Is this proposal under discussion, or has the decision been made? Again, I think we've kind of gone over this. So you know, whoever sent this question, if you happen to join later, apologies, but we did go over this. So Wellersbridge Road was an older style spec. The roadway technically was not eligible for this treatment, as it is much narrower than the road we are looking at today and discussing today. And again, the spec being used for that was the older one, which was much louder. And as far as whether or not this is still under discussion, yes, we are here tonight to get input from everybody, right? This isn't a be all end all. We are gathering information because, you know, I personally don't live in Roxbury, so it's important for us to get this intel from everyone, you know, the residents in the area.
Thanks, Balazs. And it again, in case they missed it, we did discuss Wellersbridge a little bit, and certainly the road width criteria, but, you know, from what I saw when I went out there, it wouldn't have passed. I don't think we would have recommended that road for centerline rumble strips if it was a state road. I know that was a local road. Thank you. And
Yep.
looks like
we're gonna keep trucking along, keep these questions coming. So another one is, this is actually a comment relevant to shortening the passing zones. I live where the passing zone ends, and I routinely watch people illegally pass on the remaining straightaway. Removing the passing zone would actually increase the noise over rumble strips, since drivers will do it anyway. So
thank you for that comment.
Yeah. I mean, agreed. Again, I think the big takeaway with this comment is the illegal passing, right? Kind of coming back to the enforcement aspect of things. But thank you for that. Next question is, are CLRS allowed along a designated scenic road?
When we looked into this before, because it was brought up, it might have been in Roxbury when I had discussions. I believe the answer was yes, which is why we move forward. It's certainly something I can check again and check the designation. I'd have to check again. I'm not sure that this portion of Route 67 is considered scenic. Designated scenic. I believe, and I'm sure someone will let me know if I'm wrong here. I believe it's north of Church Street, but yeah, that's certainly something I can look into again. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The next one is, you stated several times that the rumble strips may have prevented head-on collisions. Do you have any actual evidence of this?
Yes. We looked back at the UConn has a crash repository. It's public, and anyone who would like to tonight can take a look. You can look at the history. If you just Google Connecticut Crash Repository, you can create an account, and you can actually look at some of the crashes that occurred on this section of Route 67. And yes, there were some lane departure crashes where someone crossed over to either side of the road and either hit another car or hit a fixed object on the other side of the road. So yes.
Okay, thank you for that, Rob, and thank you for that question again. Follow up to another previous question from someone who's asked one before. Below 35, no rumble strip?
That's generally what we follow on state roads.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, another one is the statistics show 6 out of 34 or 18% of accidents along this section of Route 67 could have been avoided by CLRS. Yet your projections show CLRS will yield a 50% reduction in accidents. Can you help me understand how you arrived at this assessment?
Yeah, so there's a difference between all crashes and then specific types of crashes. So when we're looking at this, we're looking at run off the road and head-on collisions, which are some of the most dangerous crashes and the ones that result in fatalities. We see that centerline rumble strips are effective against those. In terms of all crashes, it's a less as a percentage of all crashes, but in terms of the most serious and fatal crashes, it's a higher percentage, which is why we have a focus on centerline rumble strips and lane departure, especially on rural roads. This is actually an emphasis area for the Connecticut DOT and part of our strategic highway safety plan because it is a real issue. The fatalities that occur on rural roads are something that we are actively trying to address with many different treatments, including centerline rumble strips. Thank you for that question.
Right, and again, our whole goal with this is we know this may not be the be all end all, the only solution on this roadway, but we do know, and there are plenty of studies, before and after studies and FHWA documentations, as well as like Rob mentioned, just crash information that we have through the repository. We do know that this is an effective and tested, proven safety countermeasure. So thank you for that. We have another one here. The proposed rumble strips are in the Roxbury Historic District. There are many historic homes very close to the road, much closer than the 100 feet mentioned. We are concerned about the vibrations to the home and the noise to the residents. Roxbury's Historic District is a very residential area. Unlike many commercial historic districts, we have sent an email explaining the process of approval.
Okay, thank you for that comment. I think we did talk about the residences some, and I went over, the number that we found within 100-foot buffer. So thank you for that comment.
Yep. Okay. Another one. Will there be any additional height added to the road in the resurfacing? The road had additional pavement added back around 2017, and the height of that already altered the incline. 1 out of 2 of my driveway, incline half of my driveway. I'm not sure what the last part of the question is.
Sure. So the VIP paving wouldn't, but the pavement preservation, unfortunately, I can't answer to that since that is handled by our pavement groups and we're in the safety group. If you would like to send a follow-up email to that project email, I can try to get an answer for you. Thank you.
Thank you. And I did throw some of the contact information since there are a lot of questions coming in. I didn't want to keep repeating the information, but the information has been added to the webinar chat. Hopefully everyone can see it as far as how to contact us. So next question is, how far ahead of the intersection at Church Street do you plan to end the rumble strips? Right
now, now I forgot the spec. Balazs, how close do we on intersections? Do you remember where we
end? It's either 25 or 50 feet away from an intersection that we would, every single intersection where it's intersecting with a town road. So if it's intersecting with, with a home or like a business, we wouldn't stop the rumble strips for that, but we would end the rumble strips prior to even if it's not a signalized intersection, just an intersection with a town road. I believe it's 25 feet away from in each direction of the actual break in the road center line. So typically that ends up being closer to like a 80-foot break, all things considered.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that would be the current extent. You know, obviously, we're getting a lot of comments tonight, especially close to that intersection with Church Street, Route 317. So we'll take those into consideration when we after we have a discussion after this meeting. So thank you.
Yep, okay, thank you. We have another one that is a little bit similar to some of the ones we have had tonight, so we'll kind of breeze through some of these again as we kind of repeat things. I have lived in a house built in 1835 on Southbury Road for 28 years. My house sits 22 feet from the paved portion of the road. Route 67 has traffic running 24 hours a day. People speed. I've seen vehicles pass at speeds over 80 miles per hour. It is worse at night. I have had 2 drunks go off the road, flip their cars, go through my fence, and leave the scene. People pass over double yellow lines in front of my house and just short of my house. Noise from rumble strips will make sleep impossible and life here intolerable. There are numerous antique homes on this section of the road.
Thank you for that comment. And I think we did make a lot of comments about enforcement and preventing crashes, but we will, like I said, all of the comments will be taken into consideration and will be recorded. So thank you.
Yep. Another question, and Rob, if you could pull up the map of Centerline rumble strips for this one. What towns near Roxbury have the CLRS in place that you are proposing? I think it is important for us to understand the sound that will occur outside of the vehicle.
Sure.
I meant the map of the state.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry. Just to give people an idea of
Sure.
what we're looking at here. Thank you.
Yeah, so it's most of the towns that surround Roxbury. There are existing Centerline rumble strips on Route 67 and Southbury. When during the field visit, those appear to match the new spec. I would have to double check that. So you could check those out. And if you want kind of a list of locations, definitely, Kim, you can follow up with us and we can provide that. So thank you.
Yep, thank you for that question. We have another comment here. I do want to clarify that the crash history is important, especially as I was in a collision when pulling into my driveway after work due to a distracted driver, and CLRS would likely not have provided any assistance. There had temporarily been a "your speed is" sign added that showed drivers their speed, which had helped a little. However, it was solar powered in a heavily treed area. These in areas with less tree coverage would likely help. Let the driver stay aware of their actual speed versus the limit.
Thank you for that comment. Yes, the Centerline rumble strips will not address all crashes. The "your speed" signs, it is possible to put those onto state roads, and there is a state program for the towns to put those on their roads. I forgot some of the details of that, but you can definitely follow up with us. I think they're through the T2 Center at UConn, and I'm sure my my supervisors would love to comment about that now. But send me, you could email the project email, and I can get you that information if that's something that the town is interested in.
Yep, and just to add to that, no, Rob, you are correct. It is through. So Connecticut DOT did work with the T2 Center of UConn, which is a training and technical assistance center. And pretty much as part of that, every town was given 2 of those "your speed" signs. So that was either given to the police or the Department of Public Works. And it was given to the towns at no cost. So it was essentially a gift to and to have the signs be posted by the town. And there was training involved with that on how to use the signs, when to move them, where to place them. So I'm glad that there was at least a little brief use for that sign over there. Unfortunately, it was a very treed area as mentioned, but again, we are trying to kind of combine different proven countermeasures to just decrease the number of crashes as much as we can throughout the state. So thank you for that. We do have a few more questions here. I'm not sure when you did your field visit, but I wonder if you observed the 50 to 100 dump trucks that travel Route 67 on a daily basis. They are not equipped with the new lane detection features that some cars have. I can assure you that they are extremely loud without the rumble strips.
Thank you for that comment. And I guess I would just reiterate what Balazs was saying before, that if there are vehicles crossing the center line, that's certainly something for concern. whether there's rumble strips there or not. So, but thank you for that comment.
Yeah, and just generally speaking, I would say that a large vehicle, tractor trailer like that would be much louder than the rumble strips in general. But thank you for that. We have just a comment here. If you're referring to Bernhardt Meadows, again, this was a question / answer from a little while ago now. If you're referring to Bernhardt Meadows, that is an elderly housing community.
Okay.
But we'll go on to the next one for that.
So we recently installed Centerline rumble strips in I think it was in North Haven. And I went in, there was an elderly housing community there, and they were offset from the road some, and I asked inside and the staff whether they had gotten any complaints about the Centerline rumble strips, and they actually didn't realize that they had been installed. So so at least in that location, it didn't seem as if the noise was an issue.
All right, we have another comment here. If your mission is save as many lives as possible, I would think that gleaning the support of other state agencies that are integral to the success of this mission statement would be your responsibility. If you are not addressing buy-in, who are you suggesting should go get this?
I'm trying to read the question again. I think that's just a good comment, and it's certainly something that we work on at DOT. We work with a lot of other agencies. We have a lot of initiatives going right now. So that's actually a very good comment. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, without getting too much into it, there's a lot of moving parts here. It's not just the Centerline rumble strips. There's tons of projects that we are working on, both within the safety group, but also in different groups within the department itself. One of the things is the strategic highway safety plan that Rob briefly mentioned. That's a 5-year plan to decrease the number of fatal and serious injury crashes throughout the state, not just through, again, rumble strips, but through many other countermeasures, just focusing primarily again on the fatal and serious injury crashes and driving those numbers down. As well as we do have some of the other stakeholders that we work with. Again, we work with many, but some would be the 4 E's. So that would be engineering is one of them. We have enforcement, right? As we mentioned earlier, education is a big part of this, and then emergency response services. So I mean, just at a very high level, there are a lot of stakeholders that we do work with and that are on board, with what it is that we're trying to do. But thank you for that. For our next question, it is cheaper, certainly. However, there is no substitute for enforcement. Speeding is obviously the first cause in most cases.
And that's a good comment, and thank you. I think we did touch on that. I guess I'll read the question and see if we can decipher it. So can the area be adjusted and not include right in town? Yeah, and I think that goes back to some of the other questions we have about the specific location of where the rumble strips are, and certainly as I said, we'll take those into consideration when we have a discussion after this meeting. So thank you.
Thank you for that. Another question. I do understand the safety aspects and understand the benefits. I do live in the center in the historic district. The traffic in the center of town is much slower on 67 past the firehouse and the town. I don't see the need through the center of town. After the strip stops at 67 and 317, where does it start again?
It doesn't start again, at least in Roxbury in 67, but that is supposed to be the most north limit. And then it just only is extending down into Southbury to Route 6. Thank you for that.
Another comment here. I'm not going to read off all of the numbers because it's a few of them, but antique homes on Southbury Road in the area you plan on doing this to. Again, number of houses listed or addresses. All of these houses are less than 50 feet from the road, and most of them are within 25 feet of the road.
Okay, and thank you for sending those addresses, and we'll take another look at the houses there. Thank you.
Another question, which I believe we've answered before, but how many of the 6 of 34 accidents actually happened within the town of Roxbury? Were those all in town or elsewhere on Route 67?
Those were all in Roxbury. And if you would like, you can take a look at some of that data. It is very interesting, and often surprising. Sometimes I know I'm surprised occasionally when I look up crash history and I realize what's been going on. And just to make another comment, that's only from the past 3 years. And Route 67 there, even though it does have more than 2,000 vehicles daily, it's relatively low volume road. So I was actually a little surprised by the number of crashes. And again, that only goes back to 2020. That doesn't go back any farther than that. We tried to look at most recent crash data. So thank you.
And the crash information, for those on the call, it is publicly available through Yukon. It's called the Yukon Crash Repository. So if anyone is interested in looking into anything that they want to, that is a publicly available domain. We have a follow-up question here, and I think the answer to this has also been mentioned, but I'd like to ask, has any member of the team actually visited and observed the town? There is no business here with the exception of one small, rarely visited antique shop.
Thank you. Yes, we did go out. Thanks.
We have another quick one. Would you post the email address again? Thank you. So that is on the page currently. And it's been added to the webinar chat. It should have been posted to everybody. So please take a look there. The project webpage is there. The project email address is there. The link to the survey, as well as our phone number, is all there. So next question, I'd like to ask, anyone on your team accounted for the way sound reverberates here? Sound near the center carries a great distance, and our grade school will likely be within this.
What I can say is that, I'd certainly gone out to the field and have someone driven over rumble strips and listened, and the sound, does go down with distance for sure. And obviously there's also just background noise from the road, from it being a state road as well. So thank you for that comment.
Okay, we have another one. Well, we have a few more here. Is Route 67 the only state route where this is planned in town, or will routes 199 and 317 be getting them as well? Being the town does not cover a large geographic area, there will not be any area of the town that will not be affected by the increased noise.
Thank you. At this time, only Route 67. We are following the Centerline rumble strip installation, and the consideration is only following paving projects, and that's to keep costs down, and because installing Centerline rumble strips in older pavement really reduces the life of the pavement. If the pavement's still new, it's not nearly as much of a problem. So thank you.
Thank you. Let's see. We have a couple more here. We have about 5,000 cars a day through town, many trucks. Something unique to this town is how sound travels. So again, kind of touching on what we just talked about. We can hear vehicles accelerating for tremendous distances in town. I strongly urge you to spend time in town during evening hours to appreciate the way sound travels, as the noise created by the current rumble strips is simply put awful. Your assurances that these new strips are not going to be as intrusive is fine, unless they aren't.
Thank you for that comment. Yeah, and it does seem that that's a concern about the noise reverberation. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah. Again, I would like to, reiterate that all things considered, if there are, loud vehicles and trucks and things of that nature that are, speeding and creating excessive noise, from racing or whatever they may be doing, that will be significantly louder than these new, proposed rumble strips. Just something to keep in mind. Let's see, we got this is a long one, so bear with me here. As outlined in Connecticut enabling statute, the Roxbury Historic District Commission has to approve any structure. The term structure as used in the statute is defined as any combination of materials other than the building which is affixed to the land. Included are signs, fences, walls, street, bridges, dams, driveways, etc., etc. The installation of Centerline rumble strips within the historic district would be considered an alteration to the road and would be subject to review by the Historic District Commission, requiring the submission of an application for a certificate of appropriateness to be reviewed by the commission at a public hearing. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that comment. I know I've been in discussions with the town already, and certainly if this is something that they want to discuss, we can. So thank you for that.
Yep. We got a couple more here, and then some emails that we have received. I appreciate the concern for the center of town, but there are a number of homes that are on Route 67 that are very close to the road. Again, I think we've kind of touched on that. It sounds like there are a number of concerns from residents that live on these roads. Will that have any impact on this decision? Again, yes, we are having this meeting specifically to, vet some of the information and, share the information and then vet some of the concerns from the public. And that I know that guide rails have been replaced several times in front of our home, so maybe we should have the rumble strips added to the white lines.
All right, well, thank you for that comment. Just want to make sure that was another long one. I just want to make sure I get everything here. We are not doing shoulder rumble strips at this time. We have no plans for doing that in any road that is not an interstate. So in terms of the white lines, there will be no rumble strips there. And yes, it does. I think a lot of the other concerns we did discuss, and we will be, like I said, bringing those into our discussion after this meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let's see what else we have here. Next one. Okay, that one we have already answered. So now we have a couple of emails that have come in. One is, how loud is a car driving on a rumble strip in decibels?
Sure. So that really depends on how far away from the road you are. At the 100 feet, it's definitely less. And in terms of how loud it is, we've tried to measure it, and sometimes we don't even get above background, depending on how busy, if the road isn't busy. So that's sort of a difficult question to answer. All I can say is, we can take your concerns into account about the number of homes that are near certain sections of Route 67. A lot of, most state roads already have a lot of background noise. So in fact, when I've gone out there myself and tried to measure it, it's actually been kind of difficult to get readings of the centerline, of the noise of the centerline rumble strip above the regular road noise. So again, we'll take a lot of these comments into account as a discussion after.
Okay, thank you, Rob. Again, this is an email question, so just it probably won't show up in the question and answer box, but we're just going to go ahead and read it out loud. This is such a common sense item. It should just be a standard installation on all newly paved or repaved roadways that have a double yellow line. In my real estate line of work, as well as during normal driving to places like the supermarket, on countless times I have seen distracted drivers looking at their phone instead of the road, and they constantly cross the yellow line. There is also this strange phenomenon called a lazy driver who decides that they want to go straight instead of following the curves of the road, even if it means crossing the yellow line. I know progress and change is slow in the government, but this should be expedited and pushed up to a top priority so it can continue to save lives. Thank you for that comment, and thank you for the support. Another email that we received. Well, the emails are very nice. We are 100% in favor of the installation of centerline rumble strips on Route 67 to reduce roadway departure and head-on crashes. With the alarming increase in the number of texting/distracted drivers on the road, you are putting your life on the line each time you get behind the wheel. Hopefully, the state can also address this issue with education and legislation to reduce distracted driving and remove distracted drivers from the road. So again, just a comment there. Let's see, trying to see if we have anything else here. Oh, okay, we got a couple more Q&As. Again, this one we've answered. Does public opinion matter at all in this decision, or is the installation of these a foregone conclusion?
That's I think maybe some people maybe they joined late, they didn't hear some of our answers, but no, this is a public information meeting to collect, and we will be taking this into account. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Again, I think this is a repeat question. Is there a place where we can see the new rumble strips that are close?
Yeah, so I think it was Selectman Tester who asked us about that before, and I think she is going to be following up in an email. Like I said, there are some existing centerline rumble strips on Route 67. I would just need to check that they meet the new spec. And yeah, we can certainly look that up for you. So if you want to follow up by email, please do.
If we do have a list of the locations, again, since this is proposed to be a newer type of rumble strip called a mumble strip or a sinusoidal rumble strip. It will be quieter, so if you do email us, we will get you a list of, specifically a location that would have that type as opposed to the older, louder type. Question here. How does Roxbury crash density compare to density in the rest of the state?
That's something I would have to check. All I can say is I was certainly surprised by the number of crashes that have happened on this road, considering I think the average daily traffic is between 2,500 and 4,000 vehicles per day. But that's something we can certainly follow up on. And again, if you're interested, all the crash data is also public.
Okay, thank you. One of the last questions that we're seeing here is how/where do we register our opinions on the for or against the stance on the Centerline rumble strips? That is currently being shown on the screen. You have a couple of options. If you want to talk to us tonight, the Zoom Q&A is your best bet, as obviously we have been going through. But if it's after tonight, the best bet would be by email or by phone. Email again is DOT2024 CLRS-Roxbury@ct.gov. Or if you want to leave a voicemail, the phone number for that is 860-594-2020. There's also a project webpage being shown here. And I can read that out loud, and that just has some basic information on what's being proposed and some of the information from the presentation that we discussed tonight. And that is portal.ct.gov/DOT2024 CLRS-Roxbury.
Thanks, Balash.
You're welcome.
Saved my voice a little bit on that one, so thanks.
Yeah.
And I do see someone sent us a map of the Roxbury Historic District, so thanks for that.
Yeah, and again, we will keep that in mind as we, I believe the Historic District or Historic Society will be reaching out to us, so we will have ongoing conversations with them, and we'll keep this in mind. Additionally, if you stop the rumble strip 300 feet before the intersection, you are not in the Historic District, so thank you for that.
Okay, thank you, Kenneth. I think we're also getting some longer follow-up emails right now, and I think a lot of those will end up having to answer after the meeting. So just know that if there is something that you want to follow up specifically and you've sent an email during this meeting and we haven't gotten it to it during the meeting, you will be hearing from us. We will respond to all emails. Even if it's just to say we've received your we've received your opinion, if it's simply just an opinion.
Okay, thank you for that, Rob, and thank you for all of the questions so far. We'll keep the line open for just a couple of more minutes. I think most people have gotten their questions answered, hopefully, and hopefully this was informative for everybody. And again, if you do have any follow-up questions, the information can be seen on the screen. Your best bet is going to be by email or by phone. Feel free to let us know anything that we might have missed as part of our purview of the project, anything that wasn't discussed tonight. Feel free. And as seen on the screen, the comment period is open through September 8th, so it's a 2-week comment period from tonight.
Thanks, Balash. I'm not seeing too many more questions coming in right now, so this might be a good time to wrap up the meeting, making everybody aware that yes, as Balash said, you can still reach out to us, and we will hear what you're saying for sure. It will reach us. So,
just real quickly, sorry, Rob, I would like to also please ask everybody again, if you could, there is a very brief survey. It's literally less than 5 minutes. If you do have access to fill that out, that would be very helpful for us. It would give us some chance to figure out what it is that we could do better. What people liked, what they didn't like. And the survey link is portal.ct.gov/CTDOT survey. Again, that would be very useful for us if anybody would be able to fill that out. Let's see, we have a couple more. Somebody said, thank you for coming to this meeting. Thank you for providing this forum. I appreciate all our citizens for participating. Agreed. This was very, very informative, hopefully for everybody, and we got some good input. Just to say thank you for all the info. I did have some misconceptions that were inaccurate. Thank you. Yep, thank you. Appreciate everybody coming here to learn about this and to provide input. Again, I think nobody from the project team lives in Roxbury, so while we have gone out in the field to to check out field conditions and see what it's like out there on Route 67, we don't have the constant, we're just not there constantly. So this is why we have these forums, and this is why input from everybody has been very important and very useful. So thank you again. So it looks like we're not really getting any more questions or emails. So I wanted to say thank you everybody for joining us this evening. Again, want to remind everybody that the comment period is open until September 8th. Questions can be sent to us at the project email, which again is DOT 2024 CLRS-Roxbury@ct.gov, or by phone at 860-594-2020 if you want to leave a voicemail. Also, please visit our project website at portal.ct.gov/DOT 2024 CLRS-Roxbury, where you can find a copy of the presentation, copies of the plans, and a link to the survey that we are asking anyone to fill out if they would be so kind. And I think with that,
I think that's, we'll wrap it up for now. People can feel free to reach out after. Someone is saying that the survey link isn't working. As Balazs said, if you go to the web page, it should work, and if it doesn't, you can reach out.
Yeah, if you just go to the browser, type in portal.ct.gov/CTDOT survey. I just typed it in and it came up for me. So hopefully it's just a temporary issue, but it should be working. But yeah, with that, again, thank you everybody for coming tonight, for listening, and for providing your feedback. Hope everybody has a great night.
Thank you so much.